Analyse analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku joins us now for more on this. Help us unpack all of this. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on Newsnight tonight.
Thanks very much.
Great. Now let's even start with the need to restate its commitment to the agreements and commitments reached at that U.S. Africa Leadership Summit. How important really is it for the U.S. to restate this commitment? And on the other hand, again, do you think African leaders actually made a strong enough case for Africa at that summit?
That's a very good question. I will start from your second question. Did they make a very good case for Africa? For some years now, there seems to be a new geopolitical rivalry for the African continent, which underscores the importance of this continent, although most times it's often shortchanged because it doesn't have absolute control of its resources and its people. So these days you have the US Africa Summit, Turkey Africa Summit, France Africa Summit, Japan Africa Summit, Russia Africa. Everyone wants a summit with Africa.
A piece of Africa.
Yes. When will we have our own summit here on the continent, inviting other people on our own terms, on our own conditions? It's about time that the African leaders begin to chart a way forward, a strategy to take control of the continent. I'd rather be focusing on talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Yes, we're not isolated. We have partnerships with other continents, but it seems that we do not have a say in how our continent is being run. The AFCFTA is huge. It's going to be a $3.4 trillion economic bloc, comprising more than 50
Which is way more
countries.
than the $55 billion that
Of course,
America, the US is putting on the table.
The amount, any money you want to get in this continent you can generate that money in this continent to develop the continent. And if the AFCFTA takes off, it has a secretariat in Ghana. It has started in 2021. More than 20 countries have ratified, which has made it to come into force. We're talking about single customs union. We're talking about lifting trade barriers on goods and services, facilitating investment within the continent, movement of people, infrastructural development. We talk about China's dominance on the continent. China is building railways, airports, seaports, and that's why so many countries want to counterbalance China. However, when will we Africans have the expertise and skills to build our own railways, to build our own airports? We need to begin to think about these things, because you have the contracts, you're giving it out to other countries. Yes, right. There are times where you might need foreign skills, but you have to begin to develop your own people.
Absolutely. And sought for African solutions on the continent. I do know that leaders from the past, the likes of Robert Mugabe, they will tell you Africa really does not really need the world, but as it stands right now, we know what it is. But Constance, let's look at the fact that, let's cast our mind back to 22 years ago when we did sign the African Growth and Opportunities Act. It's supposed to run all the way to 2025. And some would say 25 years after signing all of these agreements, we've not seen so much to look at. But looking inwards, what should the African leaders really be doing? Why would sought for all of this help from the international community, but developing the continent so that way we're dependent on ourselves?
Africa is being treated as a basket case, as a charity case. And that's why you hear the model of development, let's develop Africa. No one can develop Africa but Africans.
Right.
Yes, you have the AGOA. There are challenges for countries to export to the US. It's not as easy as it's cracked up to be. But the point is, we have to begin to put together a strategy. We have everything we need to develop this continent. If we have that strategy, we have one voice within the continent, and we can move forward. For instance, they went to Washington, D.C. African countries could have asked for instance, a seat at the United Nations. We need a permanent seat at the United Nations. They have to ask for something like an African Union seat at the G20 group of developed countries. We have to ask for support for common positions on things like climate change, energy transition, and all the other issues that we're facing today. We are not that developed, but we have more of the impact of the climate change on the continent.
Asking all the time. That is the issue, some would say. How about we look for the AFTA agreement, which you have highlighted a little earlier? Wasn't that supposed to help Africans really look inwards? How far would you say we've gone? Because even ratifying it for most countries that signed up to it is still a major challenge. Is Africa really ready to find African solutions here on the continent?
The AFCFTA is a fantastic framework for us to build.
On paper.
It's new. It's new. No, it's a great move. To be able to put it together, it is a great move. It started in 2021. That was last year. This is 2022. It would take time, but then we need to focus on it. Already, Rwanda is exporting to Ghana. There's another country that has exported to Ghana. The kind of income and money that we can generate within the continent and employment so that our people are not running off through the Sahara Desert, to the Mediterranean Sea, running off to Europe. Our young people, we're talking about Nigeria, for instance. UK is asking for Nigerian teachers. Nigerian doctors are fleeing to the UK.
Jackpot syndrome.
We have work to do. If you're not a real African leader, you're just a ruler. You need to step aside.
And that's where the problem is. I wonder what you make of that private meeting, you know, between Biden and 6 African leaders, including the Nigerian President, Muhammadu Buhari, talking about, you know, the elections, upcoming elections. Is that the foundation that Africa really needs to lay first if it's going to develop at all? Democracy.
Well, we need political stability. Without political stability, you cannot have economic vibrancy. You cannot have the environment to thrive. So we have at least 10 African countries in conflict. There's Ethiopia there. Mali is shaking. Niger is shaking. It's all over. Nigeria is even shaking.
Not left out.
Well,
You know, we have terrorism. We have transborder crime. We have transborder conflicts everywhere. We have to take our destiny into our hands. So the young people are very agitated. When you travel to Europe and you see the young people discussing, for instance, in former Francophone countries, they're very upset. They're very angry. They are asking the leaders, what are you doing? Why don't you give way? If you do not want to work, let's take over. So there is a lot of work to do. I'd rather focus on, let's take it step by step. Whatever you can do in your own country, participate in politics, be involved. We need to be involved to take charge of our continent.
Absolutely.
Getting the leadership right is the right
fundamental
step in getting it, you know, completely all together. Constance
Definitely.
Ikoku, Dr. Arise News Analyst, we say thank you so much
Thank you very
for
much.
your
Thank you
in-depth
for having
analysis
me.
tonight.